In the shadowed corridors of royal duty and personal turmoil, Charles, the heir apparent, embarked on a whirlwind of diplomatic voyages that masked the growing fractures in his marriage to Diana. As they traversed the Vatican, Italy, and Australia, the world saw a fairy tale couple. Charles in his polished suits, Diana in her elegant gowns, but behind the smiles lay unspoken tensions. In Melbourne's racecourses and Canberra's halls, where they mingled with prime ministers and crowds, Charles felt the weight of expectation, his passion for environmental causes clashing with the performative glitter of royalty. A dramatic turn came during a polo match where he kissed his mother's hand, a gesture of filial devotion that contrasted sharply with the whispers of marital discord. By year's end, in the quiet of Arlington Cemetery and Florida's sunny fields, Charles chaired meetings for his prince's trust, channeling his frustrations into aiding the youth, yet the facade cracked further as Diana's star rose, leaving him in the shadows of her charisma. The period closed with a poignant trust meeting in London, where Charles pondered his legacy amid the storm brewing at home. Amid the vast landscapes of Texas and the misty parks of Canada, Charles navigated a year of public triumphs and private heartaches. Fainting spells and royal processions highlighted Diana's fragility, yet Charles stood resolute, his speeches at Harvard echoing a deeper quest for meaning beyond the crown. In the gardens of Highgrove, with young William and Harry at play, fleeting moments of family joy pierced the veil of duty. Ascot's races and Braemar's games brought royal unity, but beneath the kilts and cheers, Charles's affair with Camilla simmered, a forbidden flame threatening to ignite scandal. State banquets in Bahrain and desert camps in Saudi Arabia showcased his diplomatic prowess, dressed in traditional garb, forging alliances while grappling with isolation. As the year waned, the Persian Gulf's opulence contrasted with his inner conflict, a man torn between love, legacy, and the unyielding throne. The climax arrived in a Bedouin tent, where cultural immersion offered brief escape, but the return home foreshadowed deeper rifts. Ski slopes in Switzerland became arenas of peril and reflection for Charles, his falls mirroring the instability of his personal life. In Spain, curtsies and hand kisses with King Juan Carlos belied the growing distance from Diana, their appearances a glittering mask over emotional voids. Epsom's Derby and Polo Awards brought familial gatherings, yet Charles's kilt-clad presence at Balmoral hinted at solitary pursuits. Holidays in Majorca with Spanish royals offered respite, children laughing on palace steps, but nursery school drop-offs for Harry revealed the everyday strains of royalty. A royal charity gala and Milan's opera openings provided cultural solace, yet the year's twist came in a skiing holiday avalanche scare, forcing Charles to confront mortality and the fragility of his choices, setting the stage for inevitable confrontations. Polo fields and birthday bashes defined a year of milestones for Charles, turning 40 amid fanfare and introspection. Kisses to the Queen's hand at Windsor echoed traditions, but Gloucester's avalanches nearly claimed lives, a harrowing escape that deepened his resolve. Cirencesta's horseback rides and London's premieres showcased his public face, yet private dances at birthday parties whispered of hidden affections. Armenian concerts and royal christenings brought family unity, Christmas services at Sandringham a facade of harmony. The dramatic pivot, an earthquake fund event where music bridged divides, but underlying scandals loomed, Charles balancing philanthropy with a storm of media scrutiny, his trust initiatives a beacon in the encroaching darkness. From Camp David's helicopters to Indonesian palaces, Charles's year unfolded like a global odyssey laced with tension. Meetings with President Bush and retreats at Balmoral offered diplomatic highs, but weddings and polo ceremonies masked marital lows. Sultan's palaces in Yogyakarta and naval uniforms in Jakarta highlighted his statesman role, yet nursery returns for William stirred paternal pride amid chaos. Saudi visits and Christmas Eves at Sandringham closed the chapter, but the unforeseen twist, a beating retreat ceremony where William's pointing finger symbolized innocence lost, Charles wrestling with his dual life, his environmental passions clashing with personal betrayals. Broken arms from polo falls symbolized Charles's physical and emotional fractures, his sling a metaphor for vulnerabilities. Cameroon's visits with Diana feigned unity, but yacht holidays in Majorca with European royals revealed alliances and rifts. Clarence House birthdays and medical recoveries marked resilience, yet arm surgeries and Yokohama ceremonies tested endurance. Gulf War troop visits in military garb showcased leadership, but the shocking turnaround, a hospital departure where crowds cheered, yet whispers of Camilla's presence ignited internal fires, Charles's trust work a salve for his divided soul. Galloping on polo fields and yacht decks in Toronto, Charles's year blended adrenaline and diplomacy. Canadian tours with prime ministers and Japanese enthronements demanded poise, but Christmas services in Sandringham exposed family strains. Tokyo business meetings and Ottawa galas provided escapes, yet the narrative twist, a Britannia deck moment where winds of change blew, Charles sensing the impending separation, his speeches on youth echoing his own lost dreams. Chelsea pensioner jokes and Easter services in Windsor painted a picture of continuity, but memorials for Diana's father unveiled grief. Seville expos and trooping colors brought spectacle, yet Korean banquets and Buddhist temples in Gyeongju offered spiritual solace amid marital collapse. European Parliament visits in Strasbourg marked intellectual pursuits, but the climactic revelation, a separation announcement looming, Charles's solitary drives in Aston Martins a symbol of isolation, his legacy hanging by a thread. Liverpool remembrances and Cartier polo intensified Charles's public engagements, Christmas at Sandringham a hollow tradition. The year's drama peaked in solitary reflections, whispers of tapes and scandals threatening the monarchy, Charles channeling energy into architecture and environment, a quiet rebellion against the storm. Closter's skiing with sons offered familial bonds, but Edinburgh welcomes with Norwegian royals demanded decorum. Province holidays and Los Angeles visits highlighted contrasts, from homeless centers to award presentations. Christmas with Diana absent marked the divide, the twist, a family photo snub in Pasadena, Charles's resilience shining through philanthropy, forging ahead amid divorce rumors. VE Day commemorations and flower shows at Hampton Court blended history and horticulture. Eton drop-offs for William and VJ anniversaries evoked pride and reflection, but Ritz parties and Christmas at Sandringham hid the pain of separation. The unforeseen, a divorce looming, Charles's premier attendances a distraction from the heartbreak, his trust work a lifeline. Movie premieres and Uzbekistan gifts marked cultural dives, but the year's epic turn, Diana's death foreshadowed in distant horizons, Charles's solitary speeches a prelude to tragedy, his foundation efforts intensifying as personal life unraveled. Nursery openings and Balmoral walks with sons provided solace, but the cataclysmic event, Diana's funeral, Charles standing with William and Harry in grief spotlight, a father's heart shattered, the monarchy teetering on the edge of public backlash. Skiing in Whistler and Abbey orders offered renewal, World Cup cheers with Harry a moment of joy. Slovenian wine samplings and birthday receptions at Buckingham healed wounds, Christmas at Sandringham a step toward normalcy, the twist, Camilla's shadow emerging, Charles rebuilding amid scrutiny. Camilla's public emergence and Wildlife Trust's visits signaled change. Rugby openings and premieres brought glamour, Trust charters a milestone. The dramatic arc, theatre outings with Camilla, defying conventions, Charles's foundation thriving as personal life evolved. Rainforest tours in Guyana and Closters skiing with sons blended adventure and family. Highgrove portraits and soap set visits amused, Christmas services united the family, the surprise, a pub stand on Coronation Street, Charles embracing pop culture, his environmental crusades gaining momentum. Indian ceremonies and trooping colors honored traditions, but eye injuries from gardening added humor. Queen Mother's funeral preparations loomed, Christmas walks at Sandringham reflective, the pivot, a palace party where laughter masked impending loss, Charles's role as heir solidifying. Garden parties and egg carries at farms showcased whimsy, Queen Mother's funeral a somber climax. Jubilee concerts and polo with sons brought joy, remembrance services honored the fallen, the twist, Camilla's Sandringham arrival, a bold step toward acceptance, Charles's grief transforming into purpose. Beef tastings in Paris and enthronements in Canterbury mixed diplomacy and ceremony. Hernia recoveries and polo prizes marked resilience, birthday banquets with Camilla public, the epic shift, Iraq memorials and Oman visits, Charles's global footprint expanding amid personal milestones. Iraq visits and Iranian aid tours highlighted humanitarianism, citizenship ceremonies a nod to diversity. Closters posing with William and Bollywood sets in Bombay surprised, the turnaround. Diana inquest openings, past shadows resurfacing, Charles's composure tested. Cancer therapies and rap meetings with Jay-Z blended worlds, Spanish weddings and farm visits grounded him. Mamma Mia galas and Reagan funerals dignified, the climax. Camilla's integration deepening, Charles's life harmonizing post-turmoil. Wedding to Camilla marked rebirth, a cinematic vow exchange defying odds. Tsunami aids and polo with sons celebrated, VE Day beacons lit history, the twist, public acceptance growing, Charles's reign prelude beginning. Skiing escapades and Saudi diplomacy wove duty and leisure. Polo triumphs and birthday galas faded, Christmas at Sandringham warmed, the narrative arc, environmental documentaries aired, Charles's voice amplifying on climate, a prophet in waiting. Diana memorials and UAE mosques visited evoked past and present. Polo with Harry and Trust galas inspired, the dramatic reveal, Camilla's companionship solidified, Charles's philanthropy blooming amid reflections. Caribbean tours and Japanese enthronements enriched culturally. Birthday broadcasts and Christmas messages connected, the pivot, environmental crusades intensified, Charles' warning of crises, his legacy as eco-warrior emerging. Canadian visits and G20 receptions globalized his role. Polo and flower shows relaxed, the twist, climate summits in Copenhagen, Charles's impassioned pleas shaking world leaders, a turning point in advocacy. Australian floods aided and Afghan troop visits honored service. Grandson George's anticipation built, the climax, Harmony books published, Charles's philosophies shared, bridging generations. William's wedding joy and U.S. diplomacy charmed. Riots responses and Christmas broadcasts soothed, the unforeseen, Camilla's Duchess role evolving, Charles's family expanding in harmony. Jubilee pageants and Olympic openings electrified. Australian tours with Camilla strengthened bonds, the arc, whether presenting gigs amused, Charles's humor shining through duty. George's birth elated, Indian tours enchanted. Polo with grandsons dreamed, the twist, retirement from polo, Charles passing the baton, embracing elder statesmanhood. D-Day commemorations honored, Colombian visits explored. Flood aids and Christmas messages warmed, the pivot, climate letters stirred controversy, Charles's convictions clashing with politics. Charlotte's arrival delighted, Turkish diplomacy engaged. Paris Climate Accords advocated, the climax, Auschwitz visits reflected on history, Charles's humanitarianism deepening. Queen's 90th celebrated, Bahraini pearls gifted. Brexit navigated subtly, the twist, Shakespeare galas performed, Charles's cultural patronage flourishing. Diana anniversaries remembered, Canadian Indigenous met. Florence floods aided, the arc, Vimy Ridge centenary honored, Charles's wartime respect evident. Louis's birth and Meghan's wedding modernized. Vanuatu chiefs met, the pivot, 70th birthday portraits captured essence, Charles reflecting on decades. D-Day 75th led, Cuban historic visit broke ground. Climate emergencies declared, the climax, hospital visits post-illness, resilience shown. Megxit shocked, pandemic addresses United Nation. Vaccine praises and virtual engagements adapted, the twist, COVID contraction, Charles's vulnerability humanizing the air. Philip's death grieved, COP26 hosted passionately. Barbados Republic transitioned, the arc, vaccine uptake urged, Charles's leadership in crisis. Jubilee Platinum celebrated, Rwanda migrants addressed. Queen's death ascended him king, the epic shift, accession council, Charles's reign dawning amid sorrow. State visits received, Christmas messages delivered as king. Protests navigated, the climax, coronation preparations, Charles embracing destiny. Coronation crowned, oaths sworn in splendor. Harry's memoir stirred, the twist, unity calls amid family rifts, Charles's monarchy tested. Trooping colors and Ascot races regaled. Kenyan state visits historic, the Ark. Cancer diagnosis loomed, resilience forged. Cancer treatments endured, D-Day 80th commemorated. Trooping return triumphed, the pivot. Health battles public, Charles's vulnerability inspiring. Election audiences and state visits hosted. Remembrances and food hubs opened, the climax. Australian tours, Charles's global kingship affirmed. Italian state visits and Auschwitz 80th reflected. Monda services and elections navigated, the epic close. VJ Day remembrances, Charles's legacy as peacemaker and environmental steward cemented, unexpected alliances and personal triumphs weaving a tapestry of enduring monarchy.